Hey guys, Brent Hull back at the Italian Revival House. A lot of great stuff that we've changed in the inside. Great updates. Come join me. Okay guys, so we're in the entry. We've now stripped all the paint away, and I think everybody's kind of fallen in love with the quarter sawn white oak, the richness of it. Look at these beams in the ceiling. Notice that these beams and the squares that happen in here are bigger than the ones that happen in the dining room, because the scale of this room is so much bigger, those beams kind of shrink down, which is kind of a cool effect. We're still trying to work on this stair, okay? We're trying to figure out what's right here. And you'll see that we have these iron samples that we put in here. We have an example of kind of a classic kind of Roman urn example. This is the scale I feel like this room needs. It's really rich and heavy in here, and I fear that these are just going to be too small. But trying to figure out, based on this kind of Italian Revival story, what's right and what's appropriate. So we're still wrestling through that. I love how it's come together. I love how beautiful it is. And this will be maybe one thing we figure out at the end. I really want wood because of the way all this has come together. If this was still paint grade, iron might work in here, but with the strength of this oak and the size of these timbers, I think we need wood here. I think iron, either if it's decorative iron, it could be too Frenchy. This iron, I'm just not loving it. So wood is my choice. Of course, I'm a wood guy. So what you're looking at is the wood that's come from our shop ready to go into this job. And you'll see we got, it's labeled casings and where it goes and what's going on. We got some base moldings, we got some other casings. The entry molding that we talked about last time, that kind of found area in there, actually ended up influencing our design in here. So come check out this paneling in this room. Okay, so we're in the family room. This is a room that's kind of transformed and changed over time. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a fish tank right there in between these two openings. Now, what I think happened originally was that this was an outside porch, I think, okay? You also notice that the windows are now in. These are 100-year windows that we have gone back matching the original. There are pieces and parts of original windows in this house. They got changed out with some cheap windows that were rotting out, and so, replacement window rotting out, imagine that. The difference, the transformation that divided lights versus open lights makes, because these were all just big open lights, changes the scale and changes the feel of this house. And so that's been dramatic, and that was awesome. Now what we did in here, I told you we took that panel mold and used it for our design in here. So this is the same profile that's in that front entry, and we used it to tie in here. You might notice that, boy, Brent, that chair rail is really high. Yes, it is, okay? And so here would be an exception of when your chair rail maybe can grow a little bit and be taller, because we wanted to tie it into the windowsill height, right? So the chair rail, if you haven't watched my videos, chair rails like my big thing, that I want chair rails to be less than 36 inches, 28 to 32 inches. This one is probably 34, something like that. But what moldings are supposed to do is unify and tie together a space. And so they help bring everything together. If I wanted to put this down at 28, just to be at 28, it would end up looking funny. So to get a chair rail height, because it's based on the pedestal height, you have to get in a room that's about 15 foot tall for your chair rail to be at 3 feet. That's why I'm like, your chair rail's never at 3 feet, okay? This one isn't at 3 feet, it's a little bit less than that, but I've got really tall ceilings. I've got almost 12-foot ceilings in here. Might be 12-foot ceilings in here. So the scale of this room can carry that. It can actually manage the height of this. And because it ties together the architectural elements, and even going into that next room, it becomes this unifying line that ties everything together, which I think is better than just trying to establish a height. Okay, over the next few months, we're gonna have a ton of changes going on in the rotunda. Let me show you where we are now, because probably next time you see it, there'll be columns in there. Okay, so this has kind of become a catch-all for all the different stuff in here, but you'll see that we're reframing and getting prepared for the columns. Now what's happening is we've got a beautiful fireplace going in here, then we've got engaged columns on either side, and because of that fireplace, it required that we change the spacing of the windows in this rotunda. Now, behind that pole to the right of it, see that little 18-inch, 2-foot wide plywood thing? That's where the old column was. And so what we've done is we've changed this spacing in here, put our steel in, and this will now be wrapped by a stone column, and there'll be glass in between that goes between here. So we've changed the spacing. It's wider now, so it's going to be even better for light. There's less columns. They're not junky columns, right? They're not those ugly things that were in here. And this should be a pretty magical space when we're done, because we'll now have the same level of architectural oomph that we've got on the front of the house, now on the back of the house. And you know, we've worked really hard to get these architectural details together. Remember, it was probably a year or so ago that I was working through the design of what's the cornice look like in here, what's it look like on the outside, how they're different. It was a really complicated build. So notice too that we've got the door on either side, right? This was closed off. We've now opened the flow here because the flow was kind of congested right here, and to get around to the kitchen, which is where we'll go next. But these doors, I think, now fit the architecture of the house, and it increases the flow, makes it better to go to the kitchen. Let's go check it out. Okay, the kitchen's really coming together now. You see the ceiling. In fact, finishes in general in this house are coming together. We're gonna go upstairs in a little bit, come down and show you how far we're painting. We've got trim in, we got a bunch of stuff in upstairs. We've got flooring starting to go in here. So this room's coming together, but look at the beams, okay? Now the reason we did an antique beam with that kind of planking there is because of a hierarchy, right? We've got those really important coffered ceilings in the entryway and in the dining room, but in here, we still wanted that beamed feel, but dressed down a little bit. So no coffering, antique beams with the planking above. We're still in the same house. We're still telling the same story, but we've set it in a different way. The other thing that's fun is you see the divided light windows there and no divided light windows here. That's about to change. We've got new divided light windows going to come here, going to wrap this out. We're redoing this little kitchen rotunda. I did a whole story on that thing too, that big rotunda and this little small one were kind of a mess. And so we're cleaning up that too. A lot of these McMansion-y things that were done in this house over the last 30 or 40 years, we're stripping away and going back, looking to the past, saying that's our model for beautiful design, for great proportion and scale. We're bringing it back here. It's really exciting. Okay guys, remember this? This is what was filled up all downstairs. Yeah, I know you probably blotted out of your mind because it was so terrible, but this is what was there. Now that I look at how rich and wonderful that paneling is downstairs, how timeless it is, okay, and how goofy and silly this is, just makes me smile. We're headed in the right direction. Seeing that makes me go, whew, glad that's behind us. So I talked about the finishes that we're getting ready in different places. I can see myself in the mirror of that ceiling, but we do have finished rooms, finished things coming together on the second floor, and we're working down. If you guys are coming to the Build Show Live that's in Dallas in November, this house will be part of the VIP tour. So if you wanted to check that out, sign up for the VIP, and you'll actually be able to come see this, and we'll be here and we'll be talking about some of these different finishes and details going on. But hopefully the second floor by that time will be finished, and we'll be on the next floor, that ground floor, maybe even in the basement working on that. So a lot of cool things to be checking out when you're here. Okay, so this is the master suite. You can see that we're putting trim in. We're getting close to finishing here. Great barrel ceiling in that master that we worked on. We kind of changed the way it was done. This is kind of a his and hers. So we got his and hers on either side, great closets. I want to show you a door system that you guys may or may not use. It's called the cavity slider, okay? Now look, we get pitched a lot of products in the Build Show, and some of them aren't as good as others, okay? And so I was telling my guys about this, hey, we need to put one of these in. Well, my project manager comes back and says, man, that's the greatest thing I've ever put together. All the guys are excited about how it goes. Basically, it's a pocket door system. Cavity Sliders is the company, and they've got a really awesome way of installing, of putting it together. This was a custom size. Cutting down the parts and pieces is very easy to do. This is a thing that you put in here that allows you to see the soft close. So that soft close is done because there's a little slider, little clip in here. And this is the little tool that you use to adjust where that starts and stops. basically it runs across, it hits my stop, I tighten that down, and I know I've got a perfect soft close system in there. It's rigid. It's that rigid aluminum, so you'll check that out. Sometimes pocket door systems in the wall can become really flimsy. This one isn't flimsy, this one's nice, and so we're actually probably gonna order a few more of these. Remember when I was trying to fix those pocket doors at Thistle Hill? Heartache I was going through trying to get that figured out. I was asking my installer, I said, once I get the door in, what's involved in working on the door? He does this, pulls it down, and because you've got these clips that go in here, now my door comes out, I got complete access to it because of this system that allows me to just push this up in there and have basically the stop that basically snaps right back in place. Pretty slick, right? So an easy way to work on these doors, if you have to work on them, it goes in easy. He said when they dropped this into the opening, it just was perfectly plumb and level. That's pretty impressive, guys. Cavity sliders, you guys check it out. Okay, guys, last thing, you see our windows, the 100-year windows. We've got casements, we've got double hungs. This is a casement wall, so this will be his closet, but we've got these windows going in and out here. So from the outside, it looks like it should. It looked like it did historically, but we've got our 100-year windows that are going in here. This job, you know, we're moving pretty good. We've got a pretty good clip. Early next year, sometime early next year, we're gonna be turning it over to the client. So finishers are coming in, it's pretty exciting. Thank you guys for joining. I'm Brent Hull, thanks for watching.